The moment Jack stumbled into room 1507 with an armful of roses, he had no idea his life was about to change forever. Standing there in his faded delivery uniform, face to face with Elise Harrington, one of the wealthiest women in the country, neither of them could have predicted that a simple mix-up would lead to a love story that would heal two broken hearts. If you're enjoying this incredible journey of fate, love, and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories that remind us how life's biggest mistakes can sometimes be our greatest blessings. Jack Sullivan checked his watch for the third time in 5 minutes. He was running late, again. The flower shop was understaffed, his babysitter had cancelled last minute, and his 7-year-old daughter Lily had spilled orange juice all over her school uniform just as they were heading out the door. Now he was racing through the grand lobby of the Westmont Hotel, the most luxurious establishment in the city, with a massive bouquet of red roses clutched in his arms. Room 1507, he muttered to himself, jabbing at the elevator button. Anniversary delivery for Mr. Davidson. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing polished wood paneling and mirrors that reflected Jack's disheveled appearance back at him. His brown hair was sticking up at odd angles, there was a small stain on his delivery shirt where Lily had hugged him goodbye, and dark circles shadowed his eyes from another night of minimal sleep. At 34, Jack looked older than his years, worn down by the struggle of raising a child alone after his wife's death 3 years ago. The 15th floor was quiet, the thick carpeting muffling his hurried footsteps as he searched for room 1507. When he found it, he knocked briskly, shifting the enormous bouquet in his arms. The card tucked among the roses read, "To my darling wife on our anniversary. 20 years and I fall more in love with you each day." Jack swallowed the lump in his throat. He'd never make it to 20 years with Sarah. They'd barely made it to 4 before cancer took her away. The door swung open, and Jack launched into his rehearsed delivery speech without looking up from the flowers. Special delivery for Mrs. Davidson. Happy anniversary from your... I think you have the wrong room. The voice that interrupted him was soft but commanding, with a hint of amusement. Jack finally looked up from the bouquet and felt his words die in his throat. Standing in the doorway was not Mrs. Davidson, but a woman with striking green eyes and dark hair pulled back in an elegant knot. She wore a simple black dress that probably cost more than Jack's monthly rent, and despite the lack of smile on her face, there was something captivating about her. I'm sorry, Jack stammered, checking the room number again. This is 1507, right? It's 1570, she corrected gently. The numbers are easy to transpose. Jack felt his face flush with embarrassment. God, I'm so sorry. It's been one of those days, you know? It's fine, she said, and for the first time, a small smile touched her lips. Those are beautiful flowers. Someone must be very loved. There was something in her tone, a hint of loneliness perhaps, that made Jack pause. He looked at her more carefully and realized she was alone in the massive suite, a half-eaten room service meal for one on the table behind her. 20 years of marriage, Jack said, gesturing to the bouquet. Must be nice to have that kind of staying power. The woman's smile faltered slightly. Yes, I imagine it would be. An awkward silence fell between them, and Jack knew he should leave, should hurry to find the correct room and complete his delivery. But something kept him rooted to the spot. I'm Jack, by the way. Jack Sullivan. Elise Harrington, she replied, and Jack felt a jolt of recognition. Elise Harrington. The Elise Harrington. CEO of Harrington Industries, one of the largest technology companies in the world. Her face occasionally graced business magazines and news segments about powerful women in business. What he hadn't realized from those glossy photos was how tired she looked up close, how the confidence she projected seemed to mask a profound solitude. Well, Miss Harrington, I should probably get these flowers to their rightful owner before they wilt from my incompetence, Jack said with a self-deprecating smile. Elise laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her face. Good luck, Jack Sullivan. I hope the rest of your day improves." As Jack walked away, he couldn't help but glance back. Elise was still standing in the doorway, watching him go, and for a brief moment, their eyes met again before she slowly closed the door. Elise Harrington sat alone in her hotel suite, staring out at the city skyline without really seeing it. At 41, she had achieved everything she had ever set out to accomplish professionally. Harrington Industries had revolutionized renewable energy technology under her leadership. Her net worth was estimated at over $11 billion, and she was regularly named among the most influential people in the world. And yet, she had never felt more alone. The knock on her door an hour after the flower delivery mix-up surprised her. When she opened it, Jack Sullivan stood there, this time without flowers but with 2 cups of coffee in a cardboard tray. "I hope this isn't inappropriate," he said quickly, "but I finished my deliveries and thought you might like some decent coffee. The stuff they serve in hotel rooms is usually terrible." Elise should have been alarmed by this presumption. She had security protocols, personal boundaries, and a general wariness of people who might want something from her. But there was something disarmingly genuine about Jack's nervous smile. "That's unexpectedly thoughtful," she said, accepting the coffee he offered. "Thank you." "It's just coffee," Jack shrugged, though they both knew it was more than that. It was a connection, however tenuous, in a world where true connections were rare. "Would you like to come in?" Elise found herself asking, surprising herself with the invitation. Jack hesitated. "I should probably get home to my daughter. The babysitter charges extra after 6. "You have a daughter?" Elise asked, curious despite herself. "Lily. She's 7 going on 30, Jack said with obvious pride. "Smart as a whip and twice as sharp." Elise smiled at the description. "She sounds wonderful." "She is," Jack agreed, then added more softly, "she's all I have." Something in his tone made Elise want to know more, but she didn't press. Instead, she took a sip of the coffee he'd brought. It was rich and perfectly prepared, with just a hint of cinnamon. "This is excellent coffee," she said. "I used to be a barista before." Jack trailed off, then shook his head. "Anyway, I should go. It was nice meeting you, Elise Harrington." As he turned to leave, Elise found herself calling after him. "Jack? Thank you. Not just for the coffee." He looked back, puzzled. "For what, then?" "For seeing me," she said simply. "Not the CEO or the billionaire. Just me." Jack's expression softened. "You're pretty hard to miss." With that, he was gone, leaving Elise standing in her doorway with a cooling coffee and the strange feeling that something significant had just happened. Jack couldn't explain, even to himself, why he had gone back to the hotel with coffee for a woman who probably had people catering to her every whim. It had been impulsive and possibly foolish, but something about Elise Harrington's lonely eyes had stayed with him throughout his deliveries. When he arrived home, his small apartment felt especially cramped after the luxury of the Westmont. Lily was sitting at their tiny kitchen table, homework spread out before her, while Mrs. Patel from next door prepared dinner. "Daddy!" Lily exclaimed, jumping up to hug him. Her dark hair was pulled into uneven pigtails, and her smile revealed a newly missing front tooth. "You're late." "Sorry, Pumpkin," Jack said, lifting her into a hug. "Work was busy today." "It's always busy," Lily said with the brutal honesty of children. "Mrs. Patel is making spaghetti because you forgot to go shopping again." Jack winced and shot an apologetic look at his elderly neighbor. "I'll go tomorrow, I promise. And I'll pay you back for the groceries." Mrs. Patel waved away his concerns. "You work too hard, Jack. The child needs her father present, not just providing." It was a gentle rebuke but one that stung nonetheless. Jack knew he was barely keeping his head above water. Between his job at the flower shop, occasional weekend shifts at a local cafe, and trying to be both mother and father to Lily, he was stretched to his breaking point. After dinner and Lily's bedtime routine, bath, story, and the ritual of checking under the bed for monsters, Jack collapsed onto his worn sofa with a sigh. His mind drifted back to Elise Harrington and their brief encounter. In another life, perhaps he might have asked her to dinner, might have pursued the spark of connection he'd felt. But his reality was bills piled on the coffee table, a daughter who needed stability, and the constant, aching absence of Sarah. He pulled out his phone and, on impulse, searched for Elise Harrington. Dozens of articles appeared, business profiles, analyses of Harrington Industries' latest innovations, photos of Elise at charity galas and economic forums. In every picture, she looked polished and powerful, nothing like the woman who had stood in the hotel doorway with tired eyes. One headline caught his attention: Elise Harrington, the billionaire who has everything except a family. The article detailed her rise to success, her workaholic tendencies, and her notable lack of personal relationships. There had been a fiancé years ago, the article mentioned, but the engagement had ended abruptly, and since then, Elise had seemingly devoted herself entirely to her company. Jack felt a pang of sympathy. He might be struggling financially, but he had Lily, a purpose beyond himself, a love that gave meaning to his hardships. What did Elise Harrington have beyond her wealth and achievements? With a sigh, Jack put down his phone. Their worlds were too different, their brief encounter nothing more than a curious intersection of lives that would never truly connect. Tomorrow, Elise would probably be flying off to some international business meeting, and he would be back to his routine of deliveries and trying to make ends meet. Yet as he drifted off to sleep that night, it was Elise's smile that followed him into his dreams. The next morning brought unexpected chaos to Jack's life. Lily woke up with a fever, forcing him to call in sick to work, a luxury he could ill afford but had no choice about. Mrs. Patel, bless her, offered to look in on them during the day, but Jack knew he needed to be the one caring for his daughter. By mid-afternoon, Lily's fever had broken, and she was dozing on the couch while Jack tried to catch up on household chores. The knock at the door was so unexpected that at first, he thought he had imagined it. When he opened the door, Elise Harrington was the last person he expected to see standing in the dingy hallway of his apartment building. She looked out of place in her tailored pantsuit, like a rare bird that had accidentally flown into the wrong habitat. "How did you find me?" was all Jack could think to ask. Elise had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I may have asked the flower shop where you worked. I hope that's not too stalkerish." Jack blinked in surprise. "No, just unexpected. Is everything okay?" "I wanted to return the favor," Elise said, holding up a bag from an upscale bakery. "You brought me coffee, so I brought you pastries. And..." She hesitated, then added, "I wanted to see you again." Before Jack could respond, a small voice called from inside the apartment. "Daddy? Who's at the door?" "Just a friend, Lily," Jack called back, then turned to Elise. "My daughter's home sick today. I should probably..." "Of course," Elise said quickly, stepping back. "I shouldn't have come unannounced. I'll just leave these with you, Anne." "No, wait," Jack found himself saying. "Would you like to come in? It's not exactly the Westmont, but..." Elise's smile was warm. "I'd like that very much." The apartment, with its mismatched furniture and walls in desperate need of fresh paint, seemed to shrink further with Elise's presence. Jack was acutely aware of the stack of bills on the counter, the toys scattered across the floor, the general evidence of a life lived paycheck to paycheck. But if Elise noticed any of this, she gave no indication. Instead, her attention was immediately captured by Lily, who had sat up on the couch and was regarding the visitor with curious eyes. "You're pretty," Lily declared with a child's directness. "Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" Jack felt his face heat up. "Lily. This is Ms. Harrington. She's a new friend." "Please, call me Elise," she said, approaching Lily with a gentleness that surprised Jack. "And you must be Lily. Your dad told me you're very smart." Lily beamed at this. I am. I can read chapter books now, and I know all my multiplication tables up to 12. That's very impressive, Elise said, sitting down beside Lily with none of the hesitation Jack might have expected from someone unused to children. When I was your age, I loved math too. As Jack watched them interact, something tightened in his chest. Elise spoke to Lily not with the condescending tone adults often used with children, but with genuine interest and respect. And Lily, normally shy with strangers, was chattering away as if she'd known Elise her whole life. The afternoon passed in a blur of conversation, laughter, and the delicious pastries Elise had brought. When Lily eventually dozed off again, Jack and Elise moved to the tiny kitchen table, speaking in hushed tones. She's extraordinary, Elise said, looking at the sleeping child. You must be very proud. She's everything to me, Jack admitted. After her mother died, well, Lily is what keeps me going. Elise's expression softened with sympathy. I'm so sorry, Jack. How long ago? 3 years. Cancer. The word still hurt to say, even after all this time. It was quick, at least. Small mercies, right? Elise reached across the table and placed her hand over his. There's nothing small about the mercy of a peaceful passing. But it doesn't make the loss any easier to bear. The understanding in her voice made Jack look at her more closely. You've lost someone too. It wasn't a question, but Elise nodded anyway. My parents, when I was in college. Car accident. And then my fiancé walked out when my company started taking off. He said he didn't sign up to be with someone who cared more about work than relationships. She gave a small, sad smile. Maybe he was right. I doubt that, Jack said. You don't strike me as someone who does anything halfway. If you loved him, I bet you loved him completely. Elise looked startled by his assessment, then thoughtful. Perhaps. But love isn't always enough, is it? No, Jack agreed, thinking of Sarah and how their love couldn't save her. But it's still worth everything. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, two people who had known loss finding unexpected understanding in each other's company. I should go, Elise said eventually, glancing at her watch. I have a board meeting tomorrow morning. Of course, Jack said, standing to walk her to the door. Thank you for the pastries. And for being so kind to Lily. At the door, Elise turned to face him, suddenly looking uncertain, an expression Jack suspected few people ever saw on the face of the confident CEO. Jack, I'd like to see you again. Both of you. Would that be all right? The question hung between them, laden with possibilities neither of them had anticipated when Jack had knocked on the wrong hotel room door. I'd like that, Jack said simply. We both would. Elisa's smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds. Good. That's good. As she walked away, Jack couldn't help but wonder what he was getting himself into. Their worlds couldn't be more different, their lives on entirely separate trajectories. And yet, something about Elise Harrington called to him in a way no one had since Sarah. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was the first time in 3 years that Jack had felt truly alive. Over the next few weeks, Elise became a regular presence in Jack and Lily's lives. Despite her demanding schedule, she made time for dinners.